Hello everybody, welcome to 2CTV and the first live update of the day. Once again, things are not going well in this country and in the West. Ladies and gentlemen, the Metropolitan Police have failed again. London is unsafe and our Western values are at risk, and we have to do something about this. Last night, we saw another chaotic situation in Westminster outside Parliament, and as we actually came to you guys with the live stream last night, I was supposed to actually go and report on the ground. Things happened and it wasn't really safe for me to be around that part of London last night, and so we are going to be talking about the aftermath in this live stream. Hello to everybody in the live chat. Let's talk about the Metropolitan Police and their failure as usual, and the excuses that they are giving out about what happened last night in Westminster. So in Parliament, we had the so-called ceasefire vote, which was essentially a vote for Israel to surrender to Hamas. But that aside, the whole motion, the whole amendment, the whole debate was completely nonsensical, because nobody in the Middle East is going to be looking at the House of Commons in London and say, well, MPs got together and they voted, they told us to do something else, so we're going to have to change our plans, guys. Put down the weapons. That was never going to happen anyway. The whole thing was pointless. But there were people outside Parliament who were taking it way too seriously. They are a bunch of, well, not just Islamist sympathizers, but of course virtuous signalers who were so passionate about the vote, including people like Humza Useless in the SNP in Scotland, which we're going to talk about him later on this channel. First things first, let's show you guys a short clip, thanks to Andy No, of what we actually witnessed last night.
She was at what?
What you done nothing. Hey bro.
This is 2023 London. This was a war memorial, and at this point, there is no respect for, obviously, for our values, but there is also no respect for basic humanity either from one side of the argument. And this issue is escalating across the Western world, across the whole world, from Canada and the US to even South Africa. We talked about Cape Town the other day, the issues that we had in Cape Town. Australia, New Zealand, all parts of the world is facing problems. There are exceptions like Poland. Poland seems to be safe because they said no to illegal migration from the Islamic world, but that it is what it is. The problem I have in this video with the Metropolitan Police is their response to what happened here when these guys decided to climb our statues, war memorials and everything else. First things first, the hypocrisy of policing, double standards in policing, that has to be pointed out. But let's talk about what they said. The Met basically said, this evening, this is last night, pro-Palestinian protesters were able to climb on the Royal Artillery Memorial at Hyde Park Corner. We regret that officers were not able to respond quickly enough to stop it happening. Below is our statement. Wow. Most people would agree that to climb on or otherwise disrespect the war memorial is unacceptable. That is why our officers have made every effort to prevent it happening in recent days. Yeah, right. This evening, a breakaway group of pro-Palestinian protesters were dispersed at Hyde Park Corner, and a number of them climbed on the Royal Artillery Memorial. While officers were on scene quickly, we regret that they were not there quickly enough to prevent the protesters accessing the memorial. We know some online have asked why the protesters were not arrested. There is no law explicitly making it illegal to climb on a memorial, so officers cannot automatically arrest, but they can intervene and make it clear that the behavior is not acceptable. The video shared online show them doing that. All right. Get ready for this, because these people are lying to you once again. Anyone who is familiar with basic policing knows that technicalities don't matter. The police could use existing powers, and sometimes they actually misuse them, depending on who they're dealing with, when it comes to disturbing the peace. It doesn't matter if you're sitting or standing on a tree or just walking around on a pavement, silently praying in your head, they can arrest you. They can. Especially in order to maintain peace and order. And a breakaway group always means it's a small group who are running around. And there have been enough police officers to control smaller breakaway groups. This was not a mass crazy movement. So it's a few people, handful of people. The police were following them anyway. So absolutely no excuses, right? They also kept replying on Twitter to people who were sharing that video. For example, this one. It's deeply disrespectful to climb on a war memorial, but there is no law making it illegal. I'm also going to show evidence against that as well in a second. In the absence of a law, officers cannot automatically arrest, but they can intervene and make it clear that behavior isn't acceptable. So if it's not illegal, then I'm just saying it from the other perspective, the other side. Then who are you to tell them the behavior is not acceptable? Clearly, if it's legal, then it's acceptable. So pick a side. You can't have both at the same time. Jonathan Gullis MP replied to the Met saying, yes, there is. Check the Police, Crime, Sentencing and Courts Act 2022, Section 50. The powers are there to make arrests for... it's always been obvious. Especially when it comes to memorials. We know that. And as he talks about other MPs like James Sunderland, he said that he and I got the government to adopt it into law after we introduced it. Because this was after what we had with the BLM movement. We're going around bringing down statues and everything else. That's why Jonathan Gullis says, stop making excuses and do your job. But then they continued. They continued to keep tweeting the same thing throughout the whole night. We agree it is deeply disrespectful to climb on a war memorial in the absence of law against it, blah, 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 blah. Right. We know that they've done it before. This is from the 18th of April 2016. 8 people were arrested after the Greenpeace protesters decided to go on London Monument. I mean, how many times do we have to show you evidence to prove that there is a problem with your leadership inside the Met, at the top of the Met? So even if there's a few good, and they are good, hardworking police officers who are just trying to do their job, they feel powerless because even if they know the law, they know that the command and the order coming from the top would say otherwise. Say, no, stay away. Do not approach. This is the problem that we currently have. How many times have we actually talked about former police officers exposing the problem with policing in regards to the bureaucratic orders and everything else that are given to them? It's just completely disgusting. Chris Rose, a friend of mine, posted this on Twitter. A short guide to the Met Police. On the left, you have... someone with the actual Palestinian flag, which was last night. You can't arrest this. On the right, it's photoshopped it and changed it to the Union flag. Able to arrest. Tick. That's exactly what we have right now in this country. This is embarrassing. The whole world is laughing at us right now. It's just, it makes no sense. Why there's no appetite in the political establishment, any of them. I don't really care at this point about Rishi Sunak or his cabinet. Anybody. Say something, do something. It's just silly. And it's also dangerous. It's silly behavior, but it's causing dangerous issues because we are literally currently in the Battle of Britannia right now, and every country is having its own war because there's a bunch of Islamists going around, but combined with the far left, and there are those who facilitated this, the liberal globalist elite who allowed this to happen in the West, and now the liberal side are surprised. Oh, what's with all this hate? So much hate. You allowed it to happen. All those liberal globalists are going around promoting open borders. All those liberal globalists saying, oh, everyone thinks it's going to be fine. We'll just integrate and become best friends again. You allowed the element of far left, which came from a very deep, messed up philosophy from mainland Europe, Germany and Russia. You had the likes of Karl Marx and many other nutters creating this politics of envy, which is based on hate. The far left going hand in hand with Islamism it's a bit of a problem, we could say. Let's go to the live chat, get your reaction as well. What do you guys have to say? All right, Ivan says Section 5 Public Order Act. Police can pretty much use that for anything. They don't need new laws. That's the other thing. Also, didn't we just report a few days ago that the then Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, just gave even more powers, and then the new powers to the police? Firstly, you don't even need new powers. You already have everything in place, and you've already used them You literally arrest people for silently praying in their head near a clinic. I know people are going to say about the buffer zones. I don't really care about that. It's the actual the different layers of the issue that matters. Humza Yousaf is a disgrace to Scotland and the people in Scotland. I absolutely agree. He had a massive meltdown. After this video, we're going to do a number of other updates as well on the channel. And make sure to stay tuned, because one of them is going to be me going through Humza Yousaf's speech and video that he posted last night. Oh, it's absolutely insane, by the way. Just wait for that to happen. Janet Hart says, we need a march for British people who want to be heard. Yeah, you will all be arrested. That's the problem. Good luck with that. This is literally the state that we're living in right now. It's so bad. Barry Collins says, Maya, the Met Police is run by a radical Islamist mayor. Sad IQ can't. This shows how woke the Met is. But what do we expect, as most of the Met are kids? But that's the thing. The last part of the sentence is actually more accurate, because relatively speaking, right now, Sadiq Khan is the commissioner, police crime commissioner in London. But this goes beyond Sadiq Khan, because this goes Sadiq Khan has only been around since 2016. This problem has been happening for a long time, slowly, in the whole of the establishment. Obviously, Sadiq Khan is a product of it. But even without Sadiq Khan, this issue would continue. This is the problem that we currently have. Even if you think that you could just change mayor, and you're gonna go and reform the police, because you don't really have the full power to do that. You need the Home Office to do that anyway. But it's not just about the police. It's the whole of the establishment, the state, that is becoming... I don't want to use the word woke, because that's just too simplified. It's basically a bunch of people who do not appreciate the country. And these people could be a white, a ginger Anglo-Saxon. There's a massive problem. There's a massive problem with the fact that... And I want to call them traitors, basically, even if they don't realize they are traitors, because they don't appreciate the system. They don't appreciate why they are civil servants, for example. The outcome of their actions basically becomes a betrayal. And there are some who are basically the enemies of the state, and they are working inside the state. You literally had Keir Starmer, an old video of him that came out a while ago, that he was basically saying, yeah, I'm a Republican, I'm in favor of bringing down the constitutional monarchy and parliamentary democracy. A year ago, he said he prefers Davos and WEF to our parliament and Westminster. I mean, these people are legitimately in politics right now. Prepare for the Islamic Republic of Britanistan. And this is the fear that we have, is that considering radicalism is coming from the far left and the Islamic ideology, it won't even get to that point, because it's going to get to a point... I mean, this is exaggeration, but this is the worst case scenario I'm talking about. But if these people win, and if the far left win as well, at the end, they're going to eat themselves, each other. So you're not going to have a united utopia of communism and Islamism living together peacefully. And, hypothetically, if there's some sort of revolution, obviously not going to happen like that, but they're doing it slowly through the system. If the country changes, they're not going to be happy with each other. So one side has to win, and I have a feeling that the ideology of the Islam is going to be more superior in regards to winning that battle, which is dangerous. You've opened the doors without vetting people's backgrounds across the whole world. We have literally soldiers of the enemy here, who pretended to be basically asylum seekers and everything else. And it's also undermined genuine asylum seekers. It's also undermined genuine migrants as well. Thank you so much for your super chat, guys, as well. Havoc, MWF. Let's go back to you guys. Jeff Walker says, they know what they are doing. They are all in on it. WEF is the problem. Well, the ideology of liberal globalism is becoming a bit of a problem at this point. They are the facilitators for this chaos, and now they are surprised that this is happening. That's why I said that. I mean, it makes no sense that nobody is willing to stand up to it. In the establishment, the so-called conservative-minded people, small c conservative, social conservatives. Where are the nationalists? In the political establishment, where are the nationalists? That's the question. Because nationalism is such a bad word. In every other country, it's just a natural state of affairs, and your the way your psyche is as a person. everybody will be, relatively speaking, a nationalist and a patriotic. That's it. There's nothing wrong with it. Just because you're a nationalist doesn't mean you have to go around and start conflicts with the rest of the world. It simply means loving your country and looking after your people first. We don't have many of them in the actual political establishment, in the position of power. I know people would say, well, there is this candidate, there is that candidate. They're not in the position of power. Neil Young says, Maya for Mayor of London. That will be the end of the world as we know it. James Warrington says, where did we allow a politician to tell the chief constable how to police? Police are supposed to be above politics. Well, the problem is we've actually allowed the police to do everything themselves, and the police establishment have gone rogue. And that was the whole point of getting police and crime commissioners, which became a completely idiotic role. But the whole point of them was to actually have someone political to be accountable on behalf of the public. Because before that, we also had chaos where you had chief constables just doing whatever they want to do without any accountability. And then we thought we could have the police commissioners being elected and nobody cared. That's why nobody voted. So they're not being held accountable. It's just another gravy train. It's a lose-lose situation, basically. They come up with plasters, short-term plasters as solutions, politicians, and then they make themselves feel good for about 10 minutes, and it goes back to chaos again. Thank you, SD, for your super chat support. Let's quickly go back to this stupid evening that we had last night, because one problem I have is that they knew these guys were going to come outside Parliament. They knew that they're going to cause chaos because there was a vote. There was a ceasefire vote. Ceasefire. And I love how the left-wing MPs, and we are going to talk about that later as well, when it comes to the Labour Party, all the resignations. Oh, by the way, can we just for a second celebrate that Jess Phillips has resigned? Goodbye, Jess Phillips. But keep an eye on every single person on that list who resigned as a Labour shadow cabinet member, because I have a feeling if Keir Starmer wins the election and becomes Prime Minister, which is likely at this point, a few of them at least, maybe people like Jess Phillips, could quietly come back to the cabinet when they are in government. And that is when the people in this country need to remind everybody else of who they were last night. Remember the 15th of November. Remember the 15th of November and what they did in Parliament, what they voted for. And if they want to come back to the cabinet of the Labour government, people need to be reminded of what sort of people we voted in, basically. It's very important for people to actually keep an eye on the list of the names of people who resigned as shadow cabinet members. And things obviously happened. Mark says, have you changed your plans about visiting Israel for the weekend? Absolutely not, Mark. We will be going there tomorrow morning, early tomorrow morning, flying straight to the Middle East. And Israel will be reporting to you guys live from there for the next few days. I'm going to be trying to go to both the Israeli side and Gaza as well. Trying to make arrangements to go and visit the tunnels. It's going to be juicy. So very dangerous, but it's important for people to see the truth that the media are not showing you, the rest of the mainstream media. So that's that. And then you had, obviously, the police being all over the place. This moment I'm going to show you, this was the actual cenotaph, Whitehall, outside Parliament, an obvious spot where it should have been protected last night before the actual anti-Israeli protesters even arrived in Westminster. Why did the police panic and do this?
She was at Run!
What's with the panic? Did you guys get surprised? Oh yeah, the protesters are going to target the cenotaph. Oh, we forgot about taking some police officers to protect the cenotaph. What were you doing? This is just basic stuff. You know, we can criticize the actual policing in terms of the policies and what they try to enforce. But this is just operational issues. Did nobody, like anybody, just have a conversation with the police officers on the ground saying, oh, by the way, has anybody actually been checking the cenotaph? Like, oh, we should probably run towards there now because the protesters are going to climb it. Oh, and apparently there's no law against it. We can't arrest them. So why are you going to protect it? Make up your mind. Can you protect the cenotaph or can you not? Or other war memorials? I mean, it's stupidity on a whole new level. I'm just offended on behalf of logic and sanity. Kim, thank you so much for your super chat, saying worried for my kids and grandkids. The worry is about the future generation. It's not really about even people like me, because we're not going to last that long. But again, I don't want to be doom and gloomy, but we're being realistic. If things don't change in the West and in the world within the next few decades, this is after I go and even my generation, then the worry is what's going to happen within the next 50 years. That is the issue. 60, 70 years. Can the West remain the West, the so-called West? Or are we at the end of the Roman Empire? And that will be absolutely depressing, considering how short-lived it would have been. What we call the Western civilization, or what we call, culturally speaking, the American Empire that we live in, this is very, very young. We have not been around for that long. The Western systems that we call, it was post-medieval times. It was basically the last 200 years when the West became more established. Definitely since the Industrial Revolution. And you're telling me this so-called empire is about to fall? That would be extremely embarrassing. Even the Roman Empire lasted longer. So we have to do something about this now before it gets too late, for the sake of humanity. Because the other side are not our saviors. The other side are barbaric. Back in the day, when the Roman Empire basically became more superior compared to the Greek Empire, it was because it was another civilization taking over, or the Greeks took over from the Persians. Now, the barbarics are going to be taken over from civilization. And no one's talking about it? Thank you again, SD, for another super chat. Let's talk about the statement that these idiots sent out last night. So the war memorial was obviously, as we say, occupied. And the police essentially admitted that they have no power, which is a lie, by the way. They said the pro-Palestinian protesters were able to climb on the Royal Artillery Memorial at Hyde Park Corner. We regret that officers were not able to respond quickly to stop it from happening. This is the statement that they have. And firstly, they said a breakaway group of pro-Palestinian protesters went to the Hyde Park and climbed on the memorial. You've seen the live streams I've been doing on the ground for the past few weeks. The breakaway groups are always smaller groups that go around, and the police usually follow them. So the police knew where they were going. I don't understand why it took them such a long time to actually protect the memorial. But even when they got to the memorial, we saw the videos, the police were standing on the ground, just begging them, please come down. We can't arrest you, but please come down. He's saying, while officers were on scene quickly, we regret that they were not there quickly enough to prevent the protesters from accessing the memorial. This is the problem I have, saying there is no law explicitly making it illegal. So, where is this logic? You're telling me, as a police officer, if someone's already on some sort of statue or whatever it is, you can't arrest them. So you can't say, oh, I'm going to come and take you down. You can't. But you can prevent them from going up. So you can stand by the statue or memorial, and if someone's trying to climb it, you'd be like, no, you're not allowed to. So you're telling me that if I was a protester, I could just say to the police, well, no, there's no law against it, so you have to let me climb it. So you can see the problem with this logic. It's an excuse. They're lying. And they kept tweeting the same thing, saying, oh, yeah, it was absolutely disrespectful to climb a war memorial, but there's no law against it. And that's why obviously we had the MPs, they're like Jonathan Gollis, exposing it, saying, yeah, the Police Crime Sentencing and Court Act 2022, Section 50 stops it. They literally put that law in place after the BLM movement were going around causing chaos like a bunch of spoiled idiots. And the police have the power now. So you're telling me that if the police leadership are not familiar or up to date with these regulations and legislations, then I think we have a different problem. I'm just saying, benefit of the doubt, they're just idiots. Are they scared of the Islamist protesters? Are they idiots? Or are they actually helping the Islamist protesters? There are three options. And maybe it's all three of them at the same time. We can't be anything else. None of it makes sense. This is where we are. Paul Atherton, welcome. Just joined as a member of the channel. Although I would encourage people, thank you guys, by the way, for supporting the channel by becoming a member. I would encourage you guys, if you want to support the channel to remain independent, to join us on our locals community. The link is in the description. Do it after the live stream, not now. Because we actually do more content there as well, more behind the scenes and more members only, uncensored content that we can't post on here for you guys. If you want to join our community, go on locals. The link is in the description. Anyway, John said that the police said that they were outnumbered. That just means that their orders are to stand down. You don't want to provoke such a crowd, or they show up twice as large the week after. This is, yes, that's true. A part of it is the fear of backlash. I mean, there's short-term backlash for the police that they're scared of. That's PR. What's going to happen on the front pages of newspapers the next day. And long-term consequences, which is basically they're scared that if, for example, there's an image of a protester getting beaten up by the police, we know what's going to happen. They're going to start a George Floyd level riot the next week. But does that mean, because of that fear, that the police should not actually do anything to stop them? No. Because even if the backlash is crazy, it just exposes the viciousness of that side. I say allow it to happen and crack down massively every time they come out. If they are obviously committing crime. You know, if a free protest is a free protest. It's a free country. You can do whatever you want. But we're not talking about protesting. We're not talking about an actual demonstration. We're talking about crime here. And then obviously disrespecting public order. So if there's going to be a bigger riot or a march next week, then fine. Let them do it. And you go and stop them. And if they get bigger, you get the army in. I don't care. You just stop them. Don't be scared. We need more courage in the leadership. Laura says, what happens when the police don't do their job and protect the British people? Will the army come in, or will the uprising of the British people take over from the government and the police? So this country is still based on the state. It's always been based on the state. And it worked in the past. We depended on the state providing freedoms and security. America is the opposite. America is the people give permission to the state, the government, to be able to govern over them. In this country, our freedoms and security always came from the state. People demanded it, and the state gave it to them, their rights and everything else. So that includes policing and defense, which means, theoretically, if things escalate, we won't even need to have vigilantes on the streets initially, because at that point, I mean, exaggerated level, they would even potentially get the army in if it gets to that level. So as in, theoretically, that's how the state used to act in this country to prevent any sort of anarchy or any sort of vigilante. But the fear that I have is that, is the British state still the same British state that we knew of back in the day? Or is it changing as well? Is that also being undermined by the new generation of people who are working in the state? Do we still have people who are loyal to this country and try to actually preserve our values and our freedoms and our democracy? Or do we just have a bunch of weak, feeble idiots who are just allowing the poison of anti-West and sentiment to take over our establishment? Sylvia says, your answer is in your Bible. What is going to happen? Book of Revelation, Matthew 24. We have there. Does the police commissioner even know what the law is? Probably not. Joanne actually says, I think we need in the army yet and now. So obviously nothing's. You can't get it yet because all we've seen was just disorder. It's bad, but it's just disorder for now. So if we get the army in now, it will be preemptive and it will be quite crazy. Also, what sort of army are we actually talking about right now? Because there's also a problem with the Ministry of Defense when it comes to their resources, let's just say, and their priorities. Cobra Gaming, thank you for your super chat, saying need a new law, Veterans Honour Act pushed through Parliament, which will protect memorial statues and Armistice Day and Remembrance. But they literally, the whole point of the 2020 legislation, the Act, it was to support this, was to literally protect the statues and memorials. I mean, how many new legislations do we need for the police to do their jobs? Sheridan, thank you so much for your super chat. Israel is a beautiful place. Enjoy it. I went in 1987. Wow. Guessing it's been changed a little bit since then. Apparently there are a number of nicer nightclubs there compared to before. It's a very liberal city, obviously, Tel Aviv, where I'm going in initially tomorrow. Looking forward to this weekend. Obviously, those of you who are in Israel watching this right now will be coming to you guys. I believe Saturday night is going to be a rally in Tel Aviv for the hostages, which we'll be reporting live as well. So if anybody's going to be there and watching this right now, I will see you guys there. But we will keep you guys posted throughout the evening. tonight. We have a number of updates. We're going to talk about Hamza Yusuf's meltdown after the ceasefire vote. We're going to give you more video evidence of what the IDF discovered at the Al Shifa hospital. The media has not really completely focused on that properly. Rishi Sunak has been lying about the inflation, the reason the inflation coming down. We're going to talk about that later as well. And BBC Verify, the fact checkers of the BBC, continue to promote Hamas. We're going to talk about that as well. And their biggest update will be later this evening, another live update, live stream, which will be covering Iran, what Iran is doing in the Middle East when it comes to this conflict, because it's a bit of a surprising revelation. Thank you so much for all the support and all the love. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.